So, I'm a very funny person, believe it or not. And at some point, I started um, trying to use funniness as an escape from everything. I started romanticizing funniness. I used to call it in my head. Not in public, right? Not with my friends, not with anyone else, but in my head, and maybe in some notes, in some post-it notes. I used to write the funny, as if it was a deity, and I started wanting to know more about this deity because, like, I have all of these prior beliefs about the world. About I'm not nihilistic, but I don't believe in any sort of religion or shit like that. So I start in some weird way. It was not like I didn't know about it at the time, but I started giving it this full, immense power over my life, my well-being, my I don't know. Um, and I started wanting to know more about it. Right? I don't know if religious people do that. I suppose they've read the whole Bible and everything. I've tried reading the Bible like twice, like an abridged version, and it didn't work. So there must be some kind of curiosity for one to want to read a whole fucking Bible, right? And just like that, I started wanting to read more about funniness, funniness itself. I started thinking, yeah, how can I be funny, right? And a lot of things like on, well, TikTok didn't exist at the time. This was like 5 years ago, probably. But Vine, or I guess, or YouTube, or things like that, they started exploiting randomness as a way of being funny, right? So I said, okay, is randomness funny? Is that it? And some other people started being rude and making pranks, and that was funny. And some other people behaved like they were, I was gonna say the R word, like they were dumb, and that was funny. So I said, what do all of these things have in common? They're funny, all of them. And I know in my head, like, it's even like absurd to question why it is funny. It just is, right? It just is funny. That, and just get on with it, and just try to make people laugh. If people laugh, you're being funny, I suppose. And but a lot of times I make people laugh and I don't find it funny myself, or the other way around, right? So maybe, but I wanted to know this as a what objectively is funny, right? What makes funniness tick? No, I don't know. And you could ask this kind of question about anything. Like you can try to get at the bottom of anything. Like you can try to get at the bottom of glasses, and some people study optics, and they spend their whole lives thinking about glasses, right? So you can do that with anything, but for some reason, because this was my deity, I started doing it with funniness. So I started looking on Google, what makes things funny? And there were some explanations. It was like, oh, it's a contrast between what like two different things, like a contrast. The more contrasting two different things are, between the expectation and the punchline, right? That was an and there was a whole fucking book about this. I don't remember the names of the books or the authors, but I read about 3 books trying to get to the bottom of it, and I always could come up with counter examples, like yeah, if what you're saying, if it's a setup and a punchline every time, then you could start thinking. Every time someone made me laugh, I would say, okay, I'm gonna check it side by side to the to this theory that this comedian, it was some comedian came up with it, because of course he's obsessed with funniness as well, and he came up with that well, not theory, a hypothesis or whatever you want to call it. I don't know if that's the right wording. So between the contrast of a setup and a punchline, but you could come up with so many ways in which it didn't work, or which something else worked that it did. You had to really do some mental gymnastics to get it into that setting of setup and punchline. You really had to bend your mind, you warp your head to put a square on a circle, right? To get it into that form, right? That equation, that solvable differential equation. I don't know. Fuck. So that didn't work, and I read another book by another motherfucker, and that didn't do it for me either. So then I found this book, and I saw all of these YouTube videos and all of these blogs, and none of it made any sense, and I started being terrorized, like actually terrorized, like existential terror, out of not being able to know what funniness even is. I knew what things made me laugh, but what the fuck was laughter in the first place? Why was had I been doing this all this time, and I hadn't been counteracting existential terror itself with funniness? That was my secret weapon, right? Amongst the meaninglessness of it all, or whatever you want to say. And I said, yeah, but you can always have a laugh at it, right? And just get on with it. But then that stopped working, because I was terrorized about funniness itself. Every time I caught myself laughing at something, I started questioning it, and then I was in the verge of a panic attack. So my secret weapon was disarmed. My cover was blown, and I really had to get to the bottom of it. And I tried doing it myself, right? I tried all of these sorts of theories, and it was fun. I felt like a real scientist trying to come up with theories and then experiment on them and see if they worked. But hooray, none of them worked, until I found a book by some fucking author. This one I'm actually going to put in the description if you want to read it. I don't remember. I think it was from MIT or something, by some really smart people. And you don't usually think of smart people as some funny people, as funny people. But they sometimes I think maybe they are the funniest of them all. They just got tired of it. They are just so funny that they don't see. They know there's more to life than being funny, or maybe they're just not funny, right? That's the more probable explanation. Because if they could be funny, then then they would have friends, right? And social, I don't know. Smart people are cool. Some of them, right? And as some dumb people are cool. Like I don't think it has anything to do with being cool, how smart you are. But I digress. So these very smart men, I think they are two authors. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they are like 12. I don't like, actually remember. But the thing is, they said they came up with a theory that worked by saying, okay, it's when you realize you're wrong, right? That's it. That's funniness. Realizing you're wrong, and not just you being wrong, because you can take my word for it and say, okay, it's when you realize you're wrong. Okay, I can go home now and keep laughing, and that's going to work, right? But no, it also means when you realize someone else is wrong, and specifically like being proven wrong at a certain with in a certain way, like being proven wrong, but without considering you're wrong, or noticing someone else is wrong when they didn't consider at all that they were wrong. Like having a belief come into your mind surreptitiously, right? Without you knowing it, and that belief being wrong, and you never questioning it, and in some at some point, like a flip of a coin, a flip of a switch, you realize you were wrong, and then your body rewards you, your mind rewards you with getting like convulsions in your belly, and feeling giddy and feeling good, because now you know something new. So it's a thing of knowledge, like, I suppose. Of course, we have distilled it and made it into something else, like with emergence and everything. We have turned it into a way of socializing. Like, you can spend a whole afternoon just shooting the shit with your mates, and that's a social thing, and you have a fucking good time, and that's it. That's the use of it. But I suppose, well, I don't suppose that the smart people that wrote the book proposed that it was originally an evolutionary advantage to realize when you were wrong. and your mind wanting like rewarding you for noticing you're wrong, because then you're making a model of the world. You're making your model of the world a bit better, right? And now it works slightly teeny tiny better than before. And of course, your mind doesn't know objective truth. Once it sees it, you might be wrong twice, and then it would be funny twice. But your mind being convinced that it was wrong and now it is right, and never knowing, never suspecting if it was wrong, is what gives you that kick, that funny kick. So it also works with like other minds, like you having a model of another mind in your own mind, and noticing that model had a belief that they were fully committed to, and now it has been proven wrong in the blink of an eye, and that makes you laugh as well. And try to prove that theory, like try to experiment on that theory. Go see a comedy movie, and you will see it's that one sort of works, right? Sometimes you have to do some mental gymnastics as well, and sometimes it's gets more involved, because the model of someone else you have in your mind that model has another model inside of it of someone else's mind, and maybe that someone else's mind has a model of your mind in it, and at some point in the chain someone is wrong, and it can get pretty complicated. So but our mind just doesn't consciously know it, but has a certain mechanism instilled in itself that makes us, when we notice that, makes us laugh. So that's kind of creepy, isn't it? Because we never know what's funny, what's actually funny, but we do, right? We cannot explain it, and I went crazy trying to explain it before these people showed it to me. So that's funny, and that's funny, right? And it also has to do with computations, with how the mind works. They propose the mind works with statistical predictions, and when they have a certain plethora of predictions, a certain set of predictions that they give a certain certainty to each of them. And if none of them is right, and they didn't, and the mind didn't think it could be wrong in one of those options, then it gives you a kick, like, oh, I was wrong. Ha, there you go. I fully believed that I was right, that one of these answers was the right one, but turns out it's not. And then it delves into how the mind works with statistics, right? With certain electrical activity, trying to predict what's going to happen next, or certain model of someone else's mind trying to predict what's going to happen next, and being fully committed to a certain belief, and then being wrong, right? And so I even started thinking, well, now with AI and all of this sort of thing, AI works just the same. Like, maybe we could implement some, like, AI has some certain paths and weights to the statistical. I don't know nothing about AI. I just know what everyone else knows. But I think it has like weights to certain possible outcomes that it wants to heuristically jump to. Here, I don't know. That's a word they used. I'm just trying to sound smart, right? But they try to jump to these conclusions. Well, it tries to jump to these conclusions, and maybe we could give it some sort of funny bone. We could give, like, modeling our own minds. Maybe that's why we acquired consciousness in the first place. Maybe funniness, it's what that was a final piece, and we haven't noticed it, and we're trying to make this fucking AI minds, and they don't have funniness in them. They can sort of make you laugh sometimes, but they're not actually funny, and they don't have this mechanism that we have of being rewarded when we notice we're wrong. Like, we actually actively try to be wrong, or try to make people think we're wrong, so that we can laugh. So we want to be wrong. We always think people always want to be right, but we also want to be wrong, because that makes us laugh, right? So that's funny, and maybe that's the final piece of intelligence. And also, maybe there's this song, Saint Vincent song. I think it's called "Laughing Man" or something, and it says, "If life's a joke, then I'm dying laughing." Right? And maybe, in a literal sense of, well, life's a joke, because we're always going to be wrong about something. We're always maybe there's no final thing we're going to achieve or we're going to do, and maybe we're just I don't want it to sound bleak, like it doesn't have to be bleak, but maybe we're just fools, right? Everyone, we're just fools. We're just little silly cats, and we're going to be wrong regardless of how much we study and how much time we put into it, because maybe that's just human nature, right? And maybe it's in that sense, life is a joke. Not that it was designed by some higher being, like just to mess around with us. Maybe so. Maybe it was just God has a sense of humor, right? And it puts us all this evidence of the universe and life being about something in particular, and actually it's nothing like that. Maybe it's just about writing the word blurber over and over again, and that was the point. And we were all just trying to figure it out every fucking day of our lives, and it was pointless. And maybe that's the joke, and maybe we're dying laughing then. But who fucking cares? Because being wrong is funny. Like, if you're wrong about everything, there's still funniness. So you can take solace in that thought. If everything you think is wrong, if you, maybe you're just a floating brain in the galaxy. I don't remember how that's called. It has a name. It's a physics theory, like kind of a joke. Maybe you're just a floating brain, and all everything you think you know, and all of your memories are fake, and that would be kind of funny. That would be the final funny, right? So you can just go to sleep with that thought. It may be kind of bleak, but it's not necessarily bleak. Like, even if everything you think is wrong, it's funny at the end of the day. So who fucking cares? At least it was funny. At least we have that. You cannot prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that anything you think you know is real, but you can know that it was funny in the end, I suppose. I don't know. So thank you for listening to this rambling, if you indeed still are, and I hope you found it interesting. I suppose I really found it interesting at the time, and I've stopped thinking about it. Like, I'm just funny now, if I want to. Maybe I don't find so much solace in that thought, not in that thought, but in funniness itself. I just find it as a way of socializing and stuff. I don't put all the weight of the meaning of my life upon it anymore. So that's good. To figure out that there's more to life than just being funny. But that's not going to make you not like funniness anymore. I still like funniness as just as the next guy. Just as you're always going to like chocolate. Like, you cannot brainwash yourself, no matter how much you know about chocolate and the chemical reactions the theobromine will do in your brain and in your muscles or whatever. You're still gonna fucking like chocolate. And if you say you don't, like fucking Nietzsche, I don't know, that said, no, Da Vinci, that said, like, sex is just you should just jack off, you should just wank, because he got to the bottom of it and realized sex, and is just a way of reproduction, and now he's so smart and he doesn't like sex anymore. No, you fucking don't. Yeah, you fucking do. You still like having a shag sometimes. Well, you're not fooling anyone. You're just trying to fool yourself, and you're the easiest one to fool. So yeah, that's the end of the video. Thank you. I hope this fucking thing is still recording.